Chris Kaba is the 1,833rd person to die in police custody or following police contact in England and Wales since 1990.
We're already fighting for justice and now you're attempting to harass us.
The United Kingdom is absolutely institutionally racist. He died at the feet of 5 to 6 police officers right behind there.
I could see their pistols. They could either pick left or right. Left being the taser, right being the gun.
Whoever want to push a stereotype, we're exactly like you, you know what I'm saying? We're afraid of a lot of things that you're afraid of, you know what I mean?
I don't want this to happen to any mother. I want them to answer me. Why?
On the 5th of September 2022, Chris Kaba, a 24-year-old young black man, a father-to-be, was killed by a single shot to the head by a UK police officer. First, the police said there had been a car chase, to only then admit Chris wasn't a suspect, they didn't have their sirens on, and he didn't know he was being followed. His death sparked protests across the country.
It's been hard. Really, really hard, difficult, trying times. Obviously, you don't ever expect something like this to happen to your family. So yeah, man, we're grieving and we're trying to process what's taken place whilst fighting a campaign for justice.
Let's get one thing straight. Chris Kaba has joined a very, very long list of people whose lives have been taken by the police and by this state. Chris Kaba is the 1,833rd person to die in police custody or following police contact in England and Wales since 1990. The loss cannot be quantified, it's immeasurable. So when we stand here and say we need justice, we're not just talking about justice for Chris, we're talking about justice for every single life that's been taken by the police in this country. No justice! No justice! No justice! Peace!
The United Kingdom is absolutely institutionally racist. The police are institutionally corrupt. And I make no apology at all to say that.
Another one of those lives taken by police in the UK is that of Sean Rigg, who was killed in 2008. His sister Marcia has been fighting for justice ever since.
Sean was a vulnerable person and needed to be taken to a place of safety, which was a hospital. But Sean received a death sentence that day and was restrained for between 7 and 8 minutes, face down, with an officer at his neck and an officer at his feet, very much like the way George Floyd died. And there are so many George Floyds in this country, and Sean is one of them. They did an investigation and they concluded in one sentence that the officers had done nothing wrong. The officers adhered to policy. That was it. We were so angry because it was in stark contrast to the findings of the coroner's inquest. This is the verdict. 11 ordinary members of the public found that because of the restraint, there was partial positional asphyxiation. Because there was a lack of oxygen that was going to his brain. That was the medical evidence. So these are some pictures of Sean when he was doing his Wing Chun. He was fit and healthy and well to the day that he died. He was charming, you know. He was a really nice guy. I really miss him, you know. I feel like crying. I haven't cried for a long time. Of course I cried when I saw him, when we went to identify his body, and realised he was lying there still and he was dead. You know, I fainted.
It's been 14 years since Marcia had to see Sean's dead body. For the Kaba family, it's been less than 24 hours.
We saw his body yesterday. That was hard. That was hard, man. I think we're genuinely scarred, like truly scarred. And I think when you see the body, that's the part that nobody sees, not the journalists, not the wider public, not even friends. That's real personal, you know. And the fact that I was looking at him and I just kept wishing that he'll just wake up, you know. And I think that's the best way to put it. I just kept praying that Chris, just get up. I just get up, and he didn't get up. I'm saying he's asleep, but we're not going to sleep. We're going to keep fighting for this until we get justice.
This is not new. This institution, it has always been violent, it has always been racist, and it always will be. That really has to frame then our demands for what are we looking for, what does justice look like in that context, because the reality of it is that institution is not going to change.
A landmark government report in 1999 concluded that UK police were institutionally racist. But today, they're reluctant to still admit that label. In fact, in the 2022 Police Race Action Plan, they only talk about potential areas of bias or discrimination. Institutional racism is a debate, not a fact. But the fact is, police are 4 times more likely to use force on black people in Britain. For athlete Ricardo dos Santos, that force was in July 2020, when him and his partner were stopped, handcuffed and searched, with their 3-month-old son crying alone in the car for almost 50 minutes.
They saw a black person in a car and they assumed that I was connected to weapons and drugs. There's no other reason. I mean, they didn't see me driving like a crazy person. They didn't see me speeding. They didn't see me doing anything wrong. The only thing they saw was the colour of my skin.
Marcia also believes that the colour of Sean's skin was the reason he was killed.
Well, this is Brixton Police Station, and this is where my brother died. In fact, I could take you to the gates. He died around the corner, and to Stella, I'll show you. So this is where Sean died, behind these gates, in the yard. He'd never actually entered the police station at any point. He died at the feet of 5 to 6 police officers on the cold floor at the entrance to the custody suite, right behind there.
How does it feel being here now?
I don't know. I don't feel anything. I just want justice. Because so much happened, it just brings back so many memories, actually. It brings back so many memories. And they're not nice ones either. You know, when I see them, the officers and stuff, you know, I remember in the early days we just hated the sound of sirens and hated the sight of the police officer's uniform. And just hated the sight of this.
The roots of policing have always been about class interests. It's about keeping those that are impoverished and marginalised, continuously impoverished and marginalised, and protecting those that have higher stakes in the society, in the sense that society is privileging them. Throughout history, there's been different groups that have been the target of that oppression, but I think we can see that from the influx of, you know, black communities to this country, that policing model, it definitely shifted to focus on black people, and we have been bearing the brunt of that violent policing ever since. We can see the direct root to that today, the way that the Windrush generation are still being treated today after being invited to come here. This is not just about bad apples or, you know, individuals. This is about a system that has been carefully designed. It's not that it's not working as it should. it is. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
If what it's supposed to do is focus on policing black people, what does that feel like if you're from a black community? We asked those here in Brixton. This is where the Windrush generation, the first Caribbean migrants in the UK, called home.
Police is 99% I would say racist.
Not all of them, but the force itself is, and there's a lot of racism in this country.
Is it something you've experienced yourself?
Yeah, I experienced it.
Multiple times. I'm from South London, so definitely I've been stopped.
Really and truly, there should be nothing with me wearing clothes like this, innit? But there's been times that police stop me. I'm a young man, I have a juice business, I'm doing good for myself. And they've gone through my phone like any crack deals, like, and they're trying to bust jokes, like, behind the scenes, they can abuse the power a lot sometimes. Like.
I do construction, so when I'm coming back from work, I don't feel like I should be getting stopped. But I've been stopped a couple of times, and they're not believing that I work with a certain company. I'm having to call my boss.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this looks bad. I'm having to call my boss to tell him I've been stopped to the search, and I have to prove that I work for him.
Use of stop and search went up 24% in 2021 to almost 700,000 in a year. And despite only comprising 2.6% of the population, 32% of those stops were black or ethnic minority males aged 15 to 34. For Razak and his friends who live in the deprived Kingsmead housing estate in East London, these aren't statistics, it's their lived reality. What's the relationship between the police and like a community like here?
Absolutely none. There ain't never been one. Never been. There ain't no good relationship. You know what I mean? I believe already it's like an institution built off racism, off the rip. Cause I don't feel like they're for my people, like, especially the way they treat us. With the way things have been going on for years, it just goes to show you can't be for us. Like you're killing our people, you're mistreating our people. They trouble little kids as well. Like, you know what I mean? They'll be telling like kids at the age of 12 like you might be carrying a knife and whatnot. And I'm like, bro, that's not a good way to like introduce yourself into a community and stuff like that. Especially when you're starting with them from young, so you're already introducing that trauma that no one wants to speak about.
Have any of you been stopped and searched?
Almost there, unfortunately. It's been in different areas, different like moments in my life. So, like from the age of 12, like I just feel like just had a lot of interaction with the police.
I think around 14 years old. I think I was a section 60, and
What's a section 60?
I think is when if there's a shooting or stabbing, it's like a section 60, so like anyone can get searched. But like the way they've gone to search me, it's like they don't want to ask me no questions. Like they've gone and grabbed me straight away, like, and I'm just thinking, rah, like this is how I get treated by the police.
Do the police make you feel safe?
No, never. Never a day in my life. I make myself feel safe.
Yeah, like even when I see them, like I would have nothing on me, but I still feel like running away because I don't know what they're gonna do to me. So, yeah.
You suppress it, innit? Like you don't even realize how weird it is until you speak to someone who doesn't live that type of lifestyle, who's from a different environment where they don't get stopped and searched, and then you start to realize how unnormal it is, like the interactions with police and stuff like that. Some people only know police just off like them calling them up to actually help them with a situation. Like over here, we don't know them like that. We know them off like you coming through the estate, taunting us, stopping and searching us and stuff like that.
If I were white, I don't think I would have been pulled over as many times as I've been. Honestly, don't think. I mean, there's so many white people that I know who probably been pulled over like once or twice in their life, and that's because they, you know, broken tail light or something that warranted a stop, not on a stop based on a hunch. I've been in a car when a white person has been stopped, and it's the "Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing? We're stopping you because it's not no rush into the car door, get out of the car, get out of the car." You know, their personality is completely different.
In August 2022, Ricardo was pulled over again, this time for allegedly using his phone, a claim he denies. And this time, the police officers were armed.
Why is there backup? you know, for someone being on their phone. You suspect them of being on the phone. Why is there now 3 armed vehicles? There's 9 armed officers for someone being on their phone. That was my first interaction with armed officers. And that's when it was a weird feeling, because I could see their pistols, and it was like, these guys can just at any moment decide that I'm a threat, and they could either pick left or right. Left being the taser, right being the gun. Once the incident played over, I said to some journalists that the way they approach me, they're very dangerous, they're power-driven. And I do believe that soon something bad is going to happen. And unfortunately, I was proven right. I just had to say something, you know, because I'm dealing with my issues, which is nothing compared to what the Kaba family is dealing with, but the fundamentals are the same. I believe it was racism was the core.
It's been 40 days since Chris Kaba has been killed. Ricardo is amongst those speaking at a conference and memorial being held by Chris's family. Before the event started, police turned up here and started questioning the venue and the organisers.
I feel like what happened was violent, it was sad, it was heartbreaking. So why the police feel that they need to insert themselves and come here and ask about security and ask about insurance, to us it's adding salt to injury. It's adding salt to injury. We're already fighting for justice, and now you're attempting to harass us, even though we're doing things the right way. And a lot of the time that's what they use. They say you're not doing things the right way, we are doing the shouting, getting angry, fighting. And we're not doing that, but you're still harassing us.
I am Chris's mother. After he had his dinner, he told me that, Mom, I'm going to see my friends. I will be back. And I will finish my food I left when I come back. But Chris went. He never come back. I wonder, Chris, my son, if he wasn't black, maybe this tragedy could not happen to him. I don't want this to happen to any mother, to any parent. Every time I saw the police outside, I'm scared. I am scared to be in front of them because they what they did to Chris. I want them to answer me. Why?
In this country, we have seen that the only police officer to ever be successfully prosecuted in a police killing case was in the case of Dalian Atkinson, who was killed, and that was only recently that verdict actually came about. You know, we're talking in the last 5 years, and that officer was not convicted of murder, he was convicted of manslaughter. And let me put it into context, he was tasered several times, he was kicked in the head to the extent where he had a boot print on his face, and that officer received a sentence for manslaughter. So we can see, history shows us, they won't take accountability for anything that they do, not in a real sense, or in a meaningful way. They do have impunity.
We had the first perjury trial in the United Kingdom of a police officer for lying in court. He was acquitted, and we had one of the officers become a priest in the Church of England during the time that he was being investigated for Sean's death. Nothing happened to him. And, you know, I saw him come and give evidence on the stand in his dog collar, and he was lying. And basically, on the 1st of March 2019, all the officers walked away scot-free.
Marcia now organises with the United Family and Friends campaign, the UFFC. They are families of those killed in police custody who are still fighting for justice. Every October, they gather to march together to Downing Street. This year, they are organising their 25th demonstration.
My name's Anna Sicianta and I'm a member of United Families and Friends campaign, helping to organise with this great team here. And I'm in the team because my son was killed by the police in 2015.
Hi everybody, I'm Angie Lewis, mother of Shani Lewis, and I'm a member of UFFC, and I'm a member because my son was killed by 11 police officers in 2010.
I'm Marcia, as you all know, and we're planning for the march, which is next Saturday. Placards, because we got some new ones, new families, so the Kaba family, and Ian Taylor's family, and Deji Umershaw.
Whilst the families get ready to protest, on Kingsmead Estate, Razak and his friends are reflecting on the most recent killing, Chris Kaba's.
When I heard of the news, I was devastated. I know we lost in the black community again, and it's like, at this point it's getting hard to really keep our heads up, you know what I mean? It's like, what are we meant to do, you know what I mean? Everyone has so many solutions, but it's like, which one can we put into play that, one, keeps us safe, two, actually gets us like the goal that we desire, like to just live in peace and just not be troubled.
For me, it hurts a little bit more because I think he was having a daughter.
Yeah, I heard about that as well. That was bad. That's bad.
So it just hurts more.
Whoever like want to like push a stereotype and whatnot, we're exactly like you know what I'm saying? We're afraid of a lot of things that you're afraid of, you know what I mean? Like, we're alone in this. As a community, we suffer this. Like, we feel this. We know what it's like to go into a shop and then a certain person like just stereotypes you and thinks you might steal. So now they're just following you on each aisle and stuff like that. And it's very uncomfortable. Like, some people, if they see like a young male like me walking next to them, they might hold on their bag a little bit harder, and I'm like, nobody wants what you know what I mean? Like, nobody wants what, like, I'm going somewhere, you know what I mean? Like,
like, you're laughing about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're desensitized to it, innit? So it's like, if you don't laugh, like you know what I mean, you just go mad, innit? Like, sometimes you just got to make the best out of an ugly situation.
What's behind the laughter?
Pain. A lot of pain. That's what I'm saying. So.
I don't see my work as trying to convince people that racism exists. My work is about fighting for the freedom, the rights, the dignity, the humanity of the communities that I'm part of. And what that looks like is thinking very much about how we heal, how we get free. What does that look like to us? What's real safety to our people? What's real justice to our people in the context of that systemic oppression and harm? And to try and create spaces of acknowledgement, of validation, of healing, of support and resistance, which is not new. I'm just standing on the shoulders of those that have come before me. That's a legacy that I'm proud to continue, that I'm proud to be a part of in this country.
For the UFFC, a part of that legacy of resistance is their annual demonstration. Unfortunately, every year there are new families, like Chris Kaba's, who are joining a club they never wanted to be a part of. Emotions are high as they hand in a letter to the government.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
You are protected with the police around with guns to protect your life, but you cannot protect life of our children. Parents cannot bury a child. Why you have to do that? Where is your accountability? Give us an answer. Can we trust you?
We can't trust them.
I want to challenge Rishi Sunak to acknowledge us as families, as bereaved families. Just acknowledge us. We're hurting, we're in pain, we're suffering. And as a Prime Minister, I challenge him to acknowledge the UFFC campaign.
Meet with the
ASAP, meet with the families. Yeah. Let's go 10 Downing Street, the same way he hosts all these business people, all these bankers, all these financiers, hosts the families. I challenge him to do that.
Whilst the Kaba family have a message to the government, the other families have a message for the Kabas.
From the day that the Windrush landed, there's been institutional and structural racism that's been geared towards defeating and keeping down and oppressing the black community in this country. What the police are doing is what they always do. Jefferson, my friend, they're not going to give you a report in 9 months. They told Carol Duggan and her sister Pamela Duggan that they were going to bring a report in 6 months. 3 years later, and there still was no report.
We have to stay together. We have to stay strong. You've got to stick with your family and these people. These people will carry you through. We will all try and carry you through. No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice!